Hello and welcome to another screencast. New topic. The topic is African colonization. And this screencast is going to be about the geography and demographics. I'm not going to go over all the geography of Africa because I think we've already done that in class. But we are going to talk about 4 countries in particular in this unit. One thing here is our essential questions for the unit. What was Africa like before colonization? How did colonization take place in Africa, and when did African countries gain their independence? How did the perspectives of Europeans and Africans differ concerning colonization? And how did colonization shape Africa and the world today? So super important to know how the world is shaped today by things that happened in the past. You can't understand what's going on now unless you knew what happened 20, 30, 100 years ago. So Africa is like North America in terms of being colonized by European powers. Remember, in the United States, there was Great Britain, France had parts of Canada, colonized parts of Canada. Quebec still speaks French. The Spanish had colonized Florida. So there were even other European powers. Sweden had a small colony in Delaware. Germans had a small colony in Pennsylvania. So we kind of know the North American history. Now we're going to talk about the African history with colonization. It's going to be pretty different than what happened in North America. So that's why we're going to check it out. All right, here we go. First of all, physical features of Africa. You can see in this map the vegetation zones. The darker the green, the denser the vegetation. The orangish color up here is a desert. There's also a desert down on the coast. The pink is an area called the Sahel, which is almost desert, but you can maybe grow some crops there. And same with this yellow band. So that's the main things I want you to get out of this is that the Sahara Desert is up here in the north, and it separates northern Africa from southern Africa. And southern Africa is usually called sub-Saharan, as in below the Sahara Desert. What about before there were colonies? Africa had a lot of kingdoms and city-states before Europeans showed up. This map shows you where some of them were. Across the top here, it says the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was based out of Turkey in the city of Istanbul. And so they controlled a lot of the Middle East and a lot of North Africa. But down here are all these independent kingdoms that existed within Africa. These kingdoms had a lot of trade. They had these trade networks, these trade routes. This map shows the internal trade throughout Africa. You can see the cities in northern Africa are all connected, and the ones in southern and central Africa tend to be connected as well. So you have kind of 2 different trade networks here. Now, right before the Berlin Conference in 1876, this shows the kingdoms of Africa and what it looked like. So that the slide I showed you a couple slides ago was 500 years prior to this. But right before the Europeans carve up Africa, this is what it looks like. And it shows you also the indigenous powers are greens. Those are local African kingdoms. And then the British and the French, the Portuguese, and the Turkish are already sort of colonizing Africa. So what happens in 1884? There's this thing called the Berlin Conference, and this is where a bunch of Europeans get together, 14 of them, European countries, and they decide how they're going to split up Africa. No African people there having any say in these decisions being made. It's just European powers carving up the continent. So this is what Africa looks like after the conference. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 countries split it up. And you can see where they split things up. So Britain kind of has this north-south line. France has this area. and the other countries are scattered around. So this is what we'll be talking about, this map and how it came to look like that. A couple other things about Africa. One, just how many people live there. Today, 1.2 billion people live there. And to put that into context, here's China, has 1.3 billion. The three most populous countries are Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Egypt. And that shows how many people that each of those have. And to put that into perspective, the U.S. has 328 million people. Religion, Africa is split roughly in half. North and East Africa had a lot of contact with the Middle East, so they ended up converting to Islam. A lot of people who lived in Africa did. This is West Africa over here. West Africa, Central, and South Africa had more contact with the European countries, so they ended up a lot of people adopting Christianity. This map does leave out the fact that a lot of Africans still practice traditional folk religions. So there's a lot of Christianity and Islam kind of mixed with traditional healing and medicinal practices and spiritual practices. What about languages? The language situation is interesting in Africa. There are over 2,000 languages, and these colors show the major language groups that exist in Africa. But it doesn't show all of the details because there's so many you can't fit them on. The words, this map's a little blurry, but each word represents a different language group. To put that in perspective, in Europe there are about 300 languages. In the United States and Canada there are about 296 languages. And you might be wondering, how are there 296 in US and Canada? Isn't it just English and French and maybe some Spanish? There's lots of indigenous groups that have their own languages, and there's lots of other small groups, like if people from Somalia moved to Minnesota and there's a little group of them there, they speak Somali, that would count. So about 300 languages in the US and Canada. Okay, what countries are we going to look at in this unit? I said we were going to look at 4. Here they are. One of them is Ghana here in West Africa. And just so you know, this part of Africa that I'm circling is called West Africa. There's the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is in the Central Africa. We're going to look at Algeria up here in North Africa. And by the way, I put this map on so you can see how big it is compared to the United States. Algeria is pretty big compared to the United States. I mean, it's not the whole United States, but it's pretty big. The final country is in East Africa. We're going to look at Kenya. So those are the 4 countries we'll be looking at in depth in this unit. And that is the end of the first presentation. If you have any questions, see me in class or send me an email. Bye-bye.